Now to the Gulf Coast Chief Meteorologist Alan Sealls for the latest on Ian's track right now.
Big damage in Florida, but now Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina are looking at a Category 1 hurricane. It's on the low end, but it's still going to be a rain threat. It is going to be a surge threat. Maximum steady winds of Ian, 75 miles an hour, gusting to 90. It is still off the northeast coast of Florida, but you can see all the clouds blowing northward, telling you which way the steering winds are going to push it. Here's one computer projection showing how the center of it will continue to move basically northward toward the South Carolina coast for a landfall roughly 24 hours from now, depending upon whether it's the lower coast or the upper coast. And we know even 24 hours out, that location center could be off by 40 miles, and the wind speed you see projected there could be off by 5, 6, 7 miles per hour. So these are always rough estimates, but it's certain that there will be hurricane force winds touching the coastline there. That's why the hurricane warnings have been posted and moved northward, and tropical storm warnings all the way almost into the mountains of both of the Carolinas. Along the coast, storm surge is going to occur, and then of course flooding rain even as it loses wind speed. Out in the Atlantic, here's something positive. Tropical depression number 11, it's faded away, so that's one less thing to worry about. And for us, what's positive is this is a summary of your forecast. I'll have the rest of the details in just a few minutes.
Let's send it back now to the Gulf Coast Chief Meteorologist Alan Sealls. Alan?
Well, hurricanes have a long reach, especially when they travel across the ocean and then even from the Gulf to the Atlantic. Ian, 75-mile-an-hour winds, gusting to 90. It is moving northward, and on that track, it's heading for the South Carolina coast, likely still as a minimal hurricane, a Category 1, landfall sometime midday tomorrow. You look at this projection, and we see the same patterns we've already noticed. A lot of rain will go ahead of it, with it, and even behind it. And note the wind flow as it approaches South Carolina. Here's a case where places like Wilmington may get that direct onshore flow of air and rain, and that's going to create storm surge. And places like Charleston in the harbor, the water levels will probably go low. And notice the wind direction. It's not because the hurricane is going to suck the water out of the bay. People say that frequently when a hurricane passes. For us, when a hurricane like Michael passed to the east, we saw Mobile Bay water go low, but when a storm like Katrina passed to our west, the water went up. Think about the hurricane structure. Yes, there is rising air, but there's also sinking air right in the middle. But what we notice is neither of those. We notice that wind near the ground that circulates counterclockwise, and that's the strongest force of a hurricane as far as we are concerned. It's actually balanced by air that comes out the other way at the top of a hurricane. So bottom line, hurricane does not suck water up. It doesn't lift it and take it somewhere else. It just pushes it out of a bay or into a bay. And with that south wind for us on Mobile Bay, we know what happens. The water gets pushed up against the causeway. It's not the hurricane lifting the water, it's just the wind pushing it up, and then it goes over. So people say that, but it's sort of an expression. It's not science. Tornadoes do suck water out of ponds, though. Maybe that confuses people. And that's because tornadoes are pretty small, ponds are pretty shallow, and before it even gets to the pond, it actually blows the water sideways. It's a lot happening there. Fortunately for us, not much happening here. Look at these numbers. 54 degrees this morning. We ended up at 79, below average, with sapphire skies and still low humidity. Our breezy conditions will subside overnight. We're going to continue on this same pattern of pleasant nights, clear nights, and days that will be seasonably cool as we transition to October. Here's your 7-day tracker. Temperatures only slowly climb into the low 80s by Sunday, Monday. That's typical for early October, but one thing is still missing, and that's rain. We are starting to get too dry again.